Ever since I first picked up Shogun Total War, I've bought and played every single game in the series. From the lovely siege battles of Medieval to the simple yet insanely replayable Rome and Medieval 2, all the way through to Empire, Attila, Three Kingdoms, and even the Warhammers. It really has been a hell of a journey to see the series change and develop over time. Throughout my experience, as I'm sure you have, I've witnessed huge improvements in areas like graphics, pathfinding, or faction variety, as well as the unfortunate removal of features, of course, like city viewing or visually upgrading your units or others. Total War games have come a long way in some respects, but in today's video, I want to talk about one major element of the games that has been, on the whole, I would say, neglected. And in some games, this particular feature can get just incredibly frustrating. And that is the campaign and battle AI. Now, I mostly cover modded gaming on this channel, as you might know. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of incredible, detailed, and meticulously curated mods out there that do wonders for old games like Medieval 2, Rome 2, as well as the newer games like Troy or the Warhammers. But you know what modders can't really do anything about? The lackluster and at times plain terrible AI. Overall, the Total War series has seen some AI improvements, don't get me wrong, but since Empire at least, Creative Assembly with each new title continues to insist on changing for better or worse everything else except for AI behavior. And for me, it's got to be one of the most annoying unresolved issues of the series. What makes a fun game for a player is the ability for the AI to closely mimic what the faction it represents would do in certain circumstances, as well as do it in an intelligent and challenging way. You don't want the AI to beat you to a pulp and to use tons of exploits, of course, but you also don't want it to be brain dead either, and that is an incredibly tough balance. On the campaign, this is sometimes achieved, more so than in the battles at least, as the AI knows how to use a variety of systems, respond to changing circumstances, attack when there is an opportunity the player did not prepare for, and make use of fundamental mechanics like proper army compositions, agents, and others. But there are still plenty of issues. Almost every game in the series has moments where it feels totally unbalanced depending on what faction you're playing. Most have indecisive AI factions that do nothing and usually are just there for the player to easily take over, or super decisive AI that take over the world very quickly and aggressively, or beeline straight for the player in anti-player bias. Playing vanilla Rome in Rome 2, for example, can often feel like you're playing against a brain-dead AI that walks its army off the capital when you're besieging, or that refuses to make peace or be vassalized when you've pretty clearly beaten it in every way. But play as Achilles in Troy, and you're almost certainly going to be invaded by 4 or 5 Trojan factions crossing the Aegean specifically for you. One, an example of brain-dead AI, the other, unrealistic, hyper-anti-player AI behavior. Now, I'm not saying that any of this is easy. Having a variety of design elements, dozens and dozens of factions with different gameplay design, AI behavioral personalities, thousands of potential circumstances can't be an easy thing to balance and make immersive or challenging for the player for every single playthrough. But I often find myself thinking AI is the one area that seems to have gotten the least improvement in the series over time, and currently this has led to very stale and meaningless campaign gameplay. I honestly get more bored with Total War campaigns these days because of unfun AI behavior than anything else. Now, the consensus is that Three Kingdoms and Shogun 2 specifically are often titles people quote with a decent AI, where you can consistently see the AI make unique and engaging diplomatic partnerships, where battles are often fought with far more meaning, and where as the player you find yourself challenged but also entertained. But it's weird that this same behavior hasn't successfully been emulated in other Total War games in the series. Warhammer 3, a year and a half after launch, still has major AI issues, and other historical games have been left in the dust, essentially with modders unable to do anything to help. Total War games have become more complex on the campaign side over time, but the campaign AI just hasn't been able to keep up with this increase in complexity, and it's led to the detriment of the series. The one interesting direction in which CA seems to be trying to tackle the issue, in albeit a limited way, and it's kind of borrowing from Paradox games really, is offering the player the option to change a variety of gameplay mechanics and difficulties. No longer are we stuck with difficulty settings for just campaign and battles, but with games like Warhammer 3 and now with the upcoming Pharaoh, you have more options to tinker with when it comes to how various mechanics will work and how difficult to make them for both you and the AI. And while on the surface it does sound good, I don't see how it could really affect AI personalities and overall behavior. The real crux of the problem, though, in the series is to do with the battles. I rarely see a game where battle AI has genuinely gotten better, and the fact is the current Warscape engine was first used for Empire Total War, which means it can do ranged combat relatively well, but when it comes to melee engagements to units like monsters in the Warhammers or cavalry in a lot of ways for the other games, it just doesn't know what it's doing, and because CA has been using this same engine in different iterations over and over again, things look to be getting worse and worse. One of the biggest impacts it has, for example, is melee blobbing, which from all the videos we've seen so far is unfortunately and disappointingly still an issue in the upcoming game Pharaoh as well. A great example of subpar AI in the battles are sieges, because while CA consistently improves the surface experience for the player with lots of new units, much bigger cities, and much more complicated designs of alleyways, walls, towers, and choke points, the AI simply doesn't know how to adapt to these new iterations of the system. It's this disconnection between how the AI behaves, how it responds to the player, with the variety of environmental design circumstances that makes siege gameplay so unenjoyable at the moment. Obviously, Warhammer 3 has seen the biggest and most recent backlash when it comes to siege gameplay, but many of the games since Empire, including Empire itself, have had siege gameplay that's been very negatively received. Naval warfare is again another great example of this. While the ranged combat of Empire, Napoleon, or Fall of the Samurai worked pretty well, the naval battles of melee-designed Rome 2 and Attila fell completely flat. The AI doesn't know how to respond to ramming at all, it doesn't know how to support ships that are being boarded, and in Rome 2 and Attila especially, naval battles are too buggy for the AI to really adapt to changing circumstances, which is pretty much likely why naval battles haven't been seen in the series since. I would personally love to see them come back for Total War Pharaoh, where the Sea People's invasion, a literal mass conquest of the known world via the sea, could be greatly represented with sea-to-land battles. But even if it did happen, I'm not convinced the AI would really be able to pull it off. Total War Battle AI more often than not over time just continues to disappoint and not pose enough of a challenge for the player. Age-old issues like unit collision, blobbing, and the AI's use of various units or its lack of use of formations, and a myriad of plenty of other issues makes battles usually a chore and generally makes the player opt out to simply auto-resolve at every possible opportunity. To me, there's no wonder CA has invested heavily in making more visually spectacular battles, because they do make a good job of masking these bigger issues, but more recently these issues have become more and more prevalent. And that's it for today, guys. While Campaign AI has seen some interesting and fun iterations in the series with Shogun 2 and 3 Kingdoms, there are still plenty of issues there, and Battle AI seems to be in a more stagnant state as ever. For me, and I think for a lot of Total War players out there, one of the biggest problems Total War continues to face when it comes to engaging replayability is a balanced AI that can adapt to a variety of situations and be challenging enough in meaningful and fun ways. Battles especially, which are the bread and butter of Total War, seem to be suffering lately from design stumbling blocks that keep being ignored. It's possible that Pharaoh could be different. I mean, I really have to play the game to know, but many creators who've already had access have admitted it's nothing special and plenty of issues from previous games persist. Hopefully it's not that bad, or that CA has been making meaningful adjustments in the last few months, but that remains to be seen. At the end of the day, I wanted to make a video essentially discussing why I think AI is the one biggest area for improvement in Total War games, and the reason why a lot of campaigns or battles never reach their full potential. It's an area that I really hope gets some more love and attention in future titles, and hopefully Pharaoh gets that treatment. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, do give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you think about Total War AI. Would you say it's improved more than I think? Do you think it's worse? Let me know in the comments section below. Subscribe for more Total War content, gameplay, and news. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.